Welcome back to Project Quackers, and we're doing more electrics combined with some other bits and pieces. So don't switch channels just yet, Mr. Sansom. So thanks for tuning in for the latest updates. I do appreciate your support. If you like the video at any stage, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe, and of course encourage others to watch my lunacy. Okay, got the battery cradle back in and the mount on the side of it, which allows us to mount the ignition solenoid, this indicator relay, and something else, another relay. And there. By regulator, what I meant was combined rectifier regulator, because this is the regulator, this is the old one, and that mounted here. It'd be really nice if we could mount that there, because I think this was at the back somewhere. Or what I'm favouring is to actually just drill a hole in that frame piece there, right about there. And there it is, a little spacer in there just to keep it level. I don't know if you can see down there, not really. Anyway, black spacer there. Now a little zip tie just to keep the wiring reasonably clear of the solenoid. So new connectors on that green and brown, and I've left the yellow and black there, which I'm pretty sure is an earth and we don't need, but it's paired up, which I've repaired. We can plug it all in now. On the other side of the coin, we've mounted the fuse box, the new fuse panel, to the same mount as the old one. Done a little bit of tidying up cable wise, routing the rear light cable along here, so it's dangling out the back. Waiting and ready is these two, which has to be a power and an earth, which should tie up with something, but I can't see anything. So, is that any better with two rows? Might be, mightn't it? Looks pretty cool in the dark, I have to say. Yeah, that might just work. As long as they're lined up, and that'll be difficult. But and quite how we go about doing that, I don't know. Obviously it won't be blue tape. As you may well know, my preferred weapon of choice here is HVAC tape. So this is on the backlight for the Kawasaki, and used it in numerous other episodes and series to tape lights on backwards to perspex. Well, that might just work, honestly. Little band-aid strips. The good thing about this is it is metal, it is a foil, and therefore, yeah, I know, I'll cut that off, I promise. But yeah, basically where it goes into the holes, you can kind of poke it through with a little Bradle type device, or my non-screwdriver. So that's the kind of result there, and actually I think that'll work. Well, that's running light version 1.2, I think. Okay, so we're trying out some different connectors on the rear lights here, and when I say we, I do mean we, because Mr. Simps is overseeing the whole operation. Hi, buddy. Yeah, Mr. Simps is not very well. So yeah, they seem to be just bullets, females, males involved here, but they have the same kind of melty back end. So they don't clip on very well. I could probably pull that off fairly easily. But once you seal it down with the melty bit, they kind of work okay. Don't know if I'd recommend them. Just thought I'd give them a go. Yeah, I think that'll work. What do you think, Simps? Okay. Yeah, and then this baby's pretty much done. I just got to sort out what I'm going to do about lights in general. Because even if I do use this as a running light, which I'm tempted to, I need to work out something for the other side. I'm debating not using both of these, but just one of them, mounted at the bottom, or in the middle, or somewhere suitable. And when I say debating, it's just between me and the voice that's in my head. Also thinking of just a single little strip which you can buy under there. Yeah, that might look pretty cool. Meantime, good news. We found our wires for the other two from the Rectifier Regulator. Yes, they were hiding inside this rubber boot, which I chopped. Now all that's exposed, which is a bit of a pain, but at least we found it. New battery arrived today, and I got the measurements right, but just in the wrong order. It fits that way around. Good job it's a gel battery, isn't it? I think we're going to have to run with it. Anyway, before we work out how we're going to actually make it all fit and where the wires are going to go, let's put it in the best possible condition. So I'm using my favourite, and I can't recommend these highly enough, amazing devices. So we're going to hit that, the motorcycle, and it's now analysing. These are definitely worth paying more money for. These Optima battery chargers, bloody brilliant. And on a slightly different subject, we've got our Speedo, our GPS Speedo, 120 mile an hour. I think that's going to be more than sufficient. Yeah, not sure. I mean, I like the Speedo itself. It's a little bit chunky down there, isn't it? Yeah, not so sure. I'm actually thinking of going a similar route that I did on the CB with that very cheap GPS Speedo, which works, and I've seen a really nice treatment of it on, I forget what bike it was now, might well have been a CB. Anyway, the guy basically built a custom housing for it, which was really nice. Let me see if I can dig a picture of that out. Yeah, so I'm thinking I might do something like that. And seeing as I messed up the handlebars, this lever here, and replacing it with a different item, this mount has become free. We can of course use this again like we did last time somehow, you know, that's why I've left this as it is, but we could potentially trim that off, put a thread in it like we have already, and mount it to that. That just leaves this lot to sort out. Oh yeah, and that as well. Well, thank God we got a map, eh? And in that respect, I think I've said before, it should be fairly straightforward because all the wiring seems to be original and therefore should match up, coincide with our wiring diagram. Quite the palaver putting the battery in, as is the case 50% of the time. So yes, it involves a block of wood to raise it up, about 1/2 inch, 2 lollipop sticks to raise the nut at the right level, and a little flat blade to help it on. Anyway, we're kind of done. So yes, I'm studying the wiring diagram again, which is why I've got my studious looking glasses out. And something occurred to me, and I can't see why we can't do this. Right, so most bikes have a key, or whatever these days, I don't know. I haven't had a modern bike since they stopped using keys. Maybe they still do. Anyway, I digress. Most bikes have a key that turns the ignition on. Then you've got your kill switch on top of that, and then everything else kind of kicks in, or not, depending on where the kill switch is. For example, we got the main power switch here on the Honda, which replaces the key, and over here we've got a kill switch underneath. No, there's one of these start buttons underneath. Yeah, so we've got a kill switch on the handlebars. Kind of doubling up there, really, no? So here's my train of thought. Bear with me, but it's fairly simple. Why not just make the kill switch on the handlebar the main ignition switch? You know, if you're not worried about keys and stuff like that, which I'm not. Why not? Yeah? Which means all this stuff basically just goes into the kill switch and out the other end. What do you think? Yeah. Sim thinks it's a good idea, don't you, mate? What we very quickly established, as per wiring diagram, honestly, but you know, white is the main power in, but also that blue and white there, blue and red, sorry, That was a power to the gauges, so that all the gauges obviously start working. So I've disconnected that one from the fuse box because we kind of probably don't need it. And if we do, it's all going to come off our combined ignition kill switch. Yeah. And because we are reinventing the wheel or the wiring diagram, which will completely screw up any subsequent owner of the motorcycle. So for now I'm ignoring that one, and for those of you who haven't seen me use these things, they're bloody amazing. You just plug the wires in, snap the things down, and it all connects. It's great for testing. You can get 5 in a row, or probably more, I don't know. Anyway, they're brilliant, especially for testing, but sometimes just for joining lots of wires. Honestly, if you've got room to leave these in place, they're great. They don't let go, so, and they're really easy to start swapping stuff around. Anyway, so now what we're going to do is test hooking it up to the kill switch, which involves these boys, and luckily I made some notes. Over here on the wiring diagram. Why not? Handlebar switch, H switch, W equals kill. So white is what we want. That's the lockable switch up here that stays down when you press it in, as opposed to the momentary, which is the start switch. Have I said all this before? I don't know. Anyway, it's not a bad thing to repeat yourself. It helps put it in your memory. Okay, so white to white, main power to main power, to the switch, and then everything else coming out of it, including our voltage, whatever the hell. Nothing going on at the moment. Hit the kill switch. Yay! 12 volts ish. Cool. Well, I think we've made a decision. So the other question is where we route this cable, right? Because it's coming from the handlebars. There's nowhere obvious. I don't want to obviously take it around here, and that's where the fuel tank mounts. Hole there. Don't know if it'll fit through that. Could do that. It's got to meet up with, and this is another question, it's got to meet up with all this stuff, right, which is obviously designed to end up here where the gauges are, not anymore. So I've stripped it back down here because we're going to identify the colour wiring down here, block off what we don't need, which is a lot of that, and I think we'll connect it down here, which is all good because we'll need less of it. Less is more. So that's the plan. Okay, having got to the usual noodling situation, a lot of this shit goes to gauges, which we're not going to need, but at least we have a wiring diagram if we do. There's a main brown wire, which we'll look at the wiring diagram. That goes off to like this thing that had a question mark, which clearly wasn't connected because there's the two ends of the orange. So don't know where that's supposed to go, but it wasn't working. Not crucial, obviously. There's some earths clearly marked. So yeah, all this stuff basically isn't going to be needed. So we can probably lock that off way back up here. And then there's these boys, which are probably brake switch, front brake lever switch. Anyway, there's two marked up here as H for headlight. And you know, I've got a wiring diagram that actually seems to match up for a change, which is nice. But just in case, this one just one wire, so that's the main, that's your low riding beam. This one, two wires, one which goes into the gauges, so that'll be your high beam, right, logically, because it's going to turn on a light in your gauges, so you got your high beam on. Okay, so that's all the stuff we need. This is probably all the stuff we kind of don't need. I've literally got it down to what went to the gauges. I've got the left indicator and the right indicator, and I cut some of that stuff off that linked to the gauges. So we're down to these 4. Yep, so all these are kind of brake light failure sensors and neutral switches and whatever else. Here's our blue and red friend again. Yeah, so that's basically the main power to the gauges, which, if you remember, is down here on the fuse panel, except I disconnected it. So that's just a useful kind of basic hot straight from the fuse box if we want to connect it at all. So I'm going to mark that with a red and a hot and chop it. So the only question mark we got now is this didn't go to the gauges. Is the brown and white, which goes to the, well, comes from the fuse box. So it's getting direct power, presumably. I haven't tested it, but I'm sure it does. And the only brown and white I can find on here is that, which seems to go to a dead end. Off our friend the red and blue again. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know what that's all about, but I guess we don't need it. While we're on the subject of electrics, these just came in, little strip light. I'm not sure whether I want to put it there and leave that blank or put it there. It could work there, couldn't it? Don't know how we're going to mount it. It's easy to mount down here, so we've got those. We'll see. Well, I think that's more than enough rambling on about wiring and so forth. So I'm going to deal with all that, and then we'll look at what I achieved in a later episode. So that reminds me, do remember to subscribe so you can get the update. And if you thought the video was any good, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching as usual, and of course encourage others to watch my lunacy.